Okay, another day and another life. The only difference is that this time we are in YouTube for the first time, well, in the last 2 years. So I'm a little anxious today. Not sure how it's going to go, but I'm going to make an attempt, and I'm sure you all are going to be there giving us the kind of support that we are needed. At this point, we will have to wait a little bit for people to join. I think YouTube is sending the word out, and hopefully people will start joining in very soon. So let's see. Yeah, good. That sounds nice. That's a good number to start with. Great. And hopefully more people will join in as we progress today. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Please accept it depending on which part of the world you are joining in to the stream from. So yes, today it's going to be about mobile phone audio. We all, I mean, as I understood the audience that we have a lot of mobile phone users who use their mobile phone for creating their content. Vloggers, digital content producers. Why I even know a few people who run their professional tuition centers, educational kind of centers. They run it from their mobile phones. Now, the mobile phones, by and large, give you very acceptable video quality these days. Very acceptable video quality. But the audio is always a suspect. Many people realize it, but they don't know how to handle it. Many people don't even know that audio is a problem. But let me tell you, audio probably is as important or more important, believe me, more important than the video itself. And many people neglect it because they probably are not aware of the importance of audio. So today we have an audio specialist who's going to join us and take us through the whole audio terminologies and what it means, and how to use each of those controls and what kind of devices that are available, how to use them, and help us basically understand the whole deal about mobile phone audio. And I understand from the comments that I receive that it is a big problem that people are unable to solve in spite of there being tons of YouTube videos. So we've managed to get an expert all the way from Los Angeles. And before we start with him, I'd like to tell you that this session was made possible by the people from DEITY Microphones. Now, DEITY Microphones, Andrew will tell you more about it, but before, let's see what DEITY is all about. Hey, Andrew, welcome to Pixel Village.
How are you?
Hey, very well. Yeah, really happy to have you here, Andrew. And
It was
we
wonderful to
have,
have.
yep. Thank you. And thank you, DEITY Microphone, for making this possible. And so, well, I'm sure people in the internet world, the YouTube world, know you very well as the DEITY man. You're usually there presenting them, telling them what to do, when it comes to audio. And would you, again, for the benefit of Pixel Village viewers, would you like to tell us a bit about yourself, Andrew?
Oh, I actually started in the industry of making television and films back in 2004. So I've been at it for about 16 years. I originally started out in the camera department, so shooting, lighting, all that kind of stuff. And then around 5 years ago, I made the switch. I guess it was maybe around 6 years ago now. I made the switch and I said, you know what? I'm kind of done with camera. I didn't want to just keep up with that race that was happening all the time where every single 6 months it's like, oh, we got another K to a camera. Now it's 2K. Now it's 4K. Now it's 6K. And I was like, this is becoming exhausting because It's no longer about the creativity over there. It's about the gear and the technology. And I was like, this is fine. But like I was really getting anxiety of purchasing equipment and still being in the camera department because I wasn't sure if I was going to get my money back at the end of the day if I bought the wrong camera. Yeah. And I was like on a set one day and I'm seeing the sound guy show up. He's like 2 hours late. Apparently he's on time because the sound guy shows up late to the set because he's not needed for those first couple of hours. And I'm looking over and he's got an old shotgun microphone. He's got just a boom pole, no wireless, and an old recorder. And I'm like, this guy's got old gear, doesn't have to be early, and he still gets paid the exact same amount of money as everyone else on set. Mm-hmm. I want to do what he does. So 6 years ago, I made the pivot, and I said, I'm getting out of the rat race of trying to buy the latest and greatest whatever with all of the Ks. And I said, I want to get back to being creative and in a department that doesn't really care so much about trying to always just outdo each other, but just try to be a good community. And ever since changing over, I've just love what it's like to be like in the sound team.
Absolutely. I've seen this. I mean, when I get a camera of any size, shape, in about 10 minutes, you know what it is all about, and you can figure it out and do it yourself. But put yourself in front of a sound control console, you go crazy. You can't figure out what the hell is going on in there, you see. So I know it's how it might sound. It might sound very silly or unimportant, but it is damn difficult, and it's so bloody important to know your audio very well. Yeah. So yes. So today, you're going to help us understand the audio for a mobile phone.
Right.
Content creation based on mobile phones today.
Yeah, I've got mine with me right here.
Okay, but tell me, to begin with, what is wrong with the audio which is there in the phone itself?
Well, I think the best way to sum up what's wrong with the audio that's in your phone is if I'm holding my cell phone, right? Let's take this one. It's still got a headphone jack. That's why I love this model, Samsung. But let's imagine, right, I'm doing a selfie, right? So I've got it in arm's length. So there it is. It's about, maybe half a meter away from my mouth. It probably sounds fine. But this microphone was designed to be right next to my head, right? That's where it's going to sound the best. It's going to sound okay here. But what kind of framing am I going to get if I'm just 1 arm's away? Especially if I'm going to use it for filmmaking or telling a story or shooting, let's just say something as simple as a birthday or a wedding, right? The microphone is now much further than a half a meter away. The microphone could be as much as like 10 meters away from the person talking. Well, that's not going to sound good at all, right? I mean, we know proximity to a microphone is the best way to get the best audio. That's why, like you and me right now, we actually have our microphones right in front of our face. I've got this because I'm in a room full of concrete walls. You are in your house, which is probably not the same as being in your studio. So the audio is exactly what your house sounds like, right? This doesn't sound like a studio. So we get close proximity for the best audio. So the problem with this phone is the fact that you just can't do that. If I sit there and I start filming someone, let's say they're 3 meters away, even just 3 meters, that's a far distance for audio to travel and for everything else in the room to be perfectly quiet, which never happens, right? We know how that happens, especially when you go outside. You have all the street noise, and if it's louder than the person talking, you're never going to hear them. So that's really what's the problem with smartphone built-in microphones. It's the same problem if I was to use like a DSLR built-in audio. If I was going to use something as simple as like a camcorder built-in audio, you buy a nice Sony Handycam, the internal microphones are still right next to the lens, really far away from your subject.
So, what are the solutions? We now we know what the problem is. Sometimes, you're a beginner and you tend to forget that these are the limitations. So, you start wondering, why is that person's videos looking good and mine is not looking as good? And to such a person who's wondering, now he knows what the problem is. What are the solutions that are available?
Yeah, I mean, what's really available is, I'm just going to pull this right up off my desk as the first item. I think that's an easy solution for a lot of people is get the microphone closer. And that's a lavalier. This particular lavalier has a 5-meter cable. It's one that we make from DEITY, and it's about $50 US. You can get them cheaper. So if you're on a budget, and if you're not trying to do this for money and you're trying to do this just as a hobby, I can understand $50 US is a little pricey. So if you want to get one that's cheaper, like only $20 US, that's fine. Okay, I get it. I'm not here to try to sell you on this microphone. What I'm trying to sell you on is the idea of putting this little guy that sounds really good right here on your collar. It's only about 6 inches away from your mouth. And then I plug this all the way over into my phone and run the audio down the cable. That is like the easiest of all solutions possible right now. If you were going to get started today and start shooting with your phone, like camera phone, that would be the number one thing I think everyone should have in their kit is some kind of cell phone lavalier.
Okay. So the lavalier, is that the only solution? The cable, the wired one?
No. I can also look at size like a cell phone shotgun microphone. So I've got actually a photo right here.
Do you want to share the screen?
Yeah, I've got my screen shared over. So there we go. And you've got this little on-camera microphone right here, just going right into the side of the cell phone. So the same microphones you may use on a DSLR or mirrorless camera, you can also use a lot of those same microphones in a cell phone. And a lot of apps will allow you to use external shotgun microphones or lavaliers into the recording. So you don't have to sync anything up in post, making post-production like editing super easy. And if you're doing something like this, you don't have to worry about clipping it on someone. If you're walking around and trying to get multiple people really quick, shooting weddings, that kind of things, or if you're live streaming a wedding, which can be very popular because mobile phones can live stream directly. You don't need a computer. You don't need all that extra gear. One of these set up with a nice lens, nice audio, you could live stream a wedding, no problem.
Yeah. So by adding a good audio device, improve the audio quality too. But I see tons of, you are actually spoiled for choices. There are tons of options available, right from few, very cheap to very expensive. They all look the same. The function is exactly the same, but the price difference is so huge. How do I select one? First, please tell us why there is so much of price difference, and also how do I select one?
So I think the reason why there's so much price difference is there's also a wide variety of quality. And that's something that I think a lot of people can really get behind when they understand camera. So let's do this in camera terms, and then we'll make the shift to audio terms so that everyone kind of follows along. So let's talk about camera terms first. Like there's your cell phone, you have point and shoot cameras, and then you have, Canon, Panasonic, and Sony. And then you have someone like Red, right? They all do the same thing. They all shoot 4K video. But why is the Red used in cinema? Why is that going to the movie theater and your cell phone is not? And the reason is at the end of the day, it's the minute little details. Just because something is 4K, right? We all know it's not the same kind of 4K. Some have better image quality. Some have better noise so that you don't see the little grains in the blacks, right? Some expose better. Some have the ability to shoot in the bright light and dark shadows all at the same time, right? So we know that about cameras. And now let's translate camera knowledge to audio. So let's take the cheap microphones. The cheap microphones, they make noise, okay? They produce and they hear exactly what our voice is making in terms of frequencies and response and loudness and all that kind of stuff. It reproduces that okay. It says, you know, I'm a microphone, I capture sound, and it does the job. But if I want to get something really loud, I don't want the microphone to start distorting. And cheap microphones will start to distort immediately. Then we have the mid-tier kind of microphones, and they do a better job of capturing more range from, like, you can consider this the darks to the brights, okay? That would be your bass frequencies, the real low notes, and the high frequencies, right? So the wider the range, the more premium a microphone is going to be. Same time with a camera, right? You can see into the shadows, and I can see into the brights. And then let's talk about noise and the grain structure again. So your cheap camera is going to produce a lot of grain. It's going to have a bad time trying to get to 1000 ISO. Same thing with the microphone. They have self noise. So a cheap microphone is going to create this kind of hissing noise, right? It's going to sound kind of like a cat just going shh in the background all the time. But a premium microphone is going to be crystal clear. It's going to look and sound exactly as it was the day you recorded it, just like a red camera. So that's kind of why we have this wide variety in quality and price, is as you go up, little things like that start to come into play that at the cheaper range, they just didn't exist.
So, so the cheap one, along with your voice, catches a lot of noise too, right?
Yeah, and that noise may not even be in the room. That could be in the electronics of the microphone.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. So that's how. Okay. Now, is wired better than a wireless? Because there are two options, right? I mean, I also hear, though so is it, which is better, or what are the advantages? Of course, one is limited by the length of the cable, I understand, but is there any other advantage besides besides that not tethering option? Is there any definite advantage? Can you compare them, please?
Absolutely. So let's take a wireless option first and foremost. A good wireless option is going to be reliable. And I think that's key for a lot of people. Is they buy a wireless option, they want to know it works 100% of the time. Well, with a wired option, right? So let's take a look at this. If I plug this in and I put this on my actor, this will work 100% of the time. I never have to worry about any kind of issues. That's not a bad thing. That's not a good thing. It's just a thing, right? That's something that is a fact unto this product. Same thing with wireless. Some wireless may have issues if you go beyond, say, something like 10 meters, right? Like Bluetooth, right? Like what I'm wearing in my ear right now, Bluetooth is 10 meters. If I go beyond 10 meters, you'll start to hear problems. And sometimes if I go behind a wall with my Bluetooth, I immediately hear problems too. So it really depends what is it you're trying to achieve. If you have a wall between you and your actor and they're shooting on the other side with the camera and you are on the other side trying to capture the audio, and that's going to be a problem, well, then maybe that's not the solution for you. Maybe you need to do a combination of wire and wireless where you actually take the receiver, right? So I'm going to take a receiver right here. This is a little receiver. And I mount this on the other side of the wall, and I run a wire from this receiver all the way back to me. So now I've got a combination of wire and wireless. That can also be a solution. So it really needs to be about what is it you need to accomplish? How reliable do you need it to be? So if it's a 100% of the time and you don't want to like try to chance anything, you don't want to have good luck, bad luck day, you just need it to work. Maybe a wired solution is better for you. Maybe close proximity, maybe a hybrid solution is better. But at the same time, as you spend with cameras, right? You lower end price point is noisy, right? It doesn't have good shadows. It exposes very easily. Absolutely. Same thing with wireless. As you kind of go with the cheaper wireless, the range is not as far. So you need to think about that when you buy one of those. Does it accomplish the goal? Does it get the job done at the range that I need it to get done? Majority of the time I need it to get done. If it doesn't, it's just not going to work. You can't make a bad wireless system better unless you really try to figure out the problems like range. And that is a hybrid solution where it's wired and wireless at the same time.
Okay. Hey, thank you. That was interesting. Even that analogy to photography, with photographers, it's easy to understand when you compare noise and video and images. So it's very easy for us to understand that. Okay. Now this particular microphone that I'm using got a couple of controls.
Same one I'm using, actually. Yeah.
Oh, you are? Okay. So. Yeah. There are few technical, terminologies which are engraved in it. So usually for me, it is like, it's a kind of trying various options without knowing what it means. Whichever sounds good, we use it. I really don't know what exactly it means and what it does. So the two things that I see here, one is dB, the other one is called gain. There are two things that I see on these microphones. So can you explain what it does? What is it? What is dB? How is it relevant to me? And also, what is a gain? And how is it relevant to me? And how does it affect the audio quality?
Absolutely. So we'll talk about dB first. It's little d, big B. So what that is that is going to be decibel, which is a measurement of audio and the loudness of audio. So as the number gets louder, or bigger, you actually get louder. Now, in the same issue, though, you can actually be, as the number gets smaller, it gets louder. So dB can be on a positive scale in gain, or it can be on a negative scale when you're actually trying to measure it against a VU meter. So I've actually got a VU meter right up here. There it is. It's actually measured in dB. So if we go to a split screen right here, we can actually see what dB looks like and how gain works. So as I've got this meter, I'm going to 0 dB, which is the very top of a scale. Can we go to a split screen real fast, my screen share? Yeah. So what I've got here is a VU meter. So I've got 0 dB, which is considered unity, maxed out 0 on a scale. So this is dBFS, which means you're actually measuring pure voltage here in relation to sound. So -6 dB is kind of the top end. You really don't want to kind of get too much higher than that because you may end up with clipped audio. Right now, we're mostly going to be talking about digital audio today because cell phones record everything digitally. And in digital audio, anything that is above 0 dB does not exist. It's considered no data and it's clipped audio. So -6 is really the top end you really want to go. Right in here is what's called -12. And -12 is like the perfect point where you want to hit your audio. You really want to hit -12. -20 is about where you want the bottom end of your dialogue to be. So as I'm talking to you guys right now, most of my audio is hitting around -10 to -12 right in here. And when I get really soft, when I just want to talk to you guys and get personal, and just talk a little bit, I'm actually hitting somewhere around in this -20 area. Anything below here is where you actually want stuff like street noise. Anything in the background, you want a good separation down in this area from where your human voice is. That way, when you're actually shooting, you actually get the voice coming through your mix. And in my mix, that is kind of what we're talking about, is what you actually hear at the end of the day in the video. So that's dB. That's how it all scales out. Now the question is, what is gain? Well, what gain does is, let's say I've got audio and I'm sitting down here at -30. I could add 10 dB of gain, so that's addition to the signal, and now I've got -20. So on the back of this particular microphone, which is the DEITY D3 Pro, we've actually got a little knob here on the back of this microphone. And what this knob does is actually adds 20 decibels of gain. So if I've got someone who's very far away from me, they may be talking at right here. So if I add 20 decibels of gain, I would go all the way up to -10. So I'd be hitting exactly where I need to be. So if that person is standing 3-4 meters away, I can get good audio from them just by adding a little bit of gain at my microphone. At the same time, you may say, Well, is there negative gain? Is gain possibly a subtraction formula? And the answer is no. You would just turn down and add less of it. And that's how you get subtraction in this term, especially in cell phones where you don't have to worry about like a big giant mixing console. Typically, you only have like just one basic slider to kind of worry about. And I'll show you what that looks like in what is the most popular program on the internet right now for shooting, which is Filmic Pro. So this is your meter down here, and you're going to try to get it in that yellow. So that's going to be your negative 10 dB, right? Decibels. And if you click into this area, it'll actually have just one slider. And that one slider is you're going to adjust it left and right until your audio, whatever your audio source is hitting in that negative 12 dB range.
Okay, so at this point, I need to just stop and make a few announcements because we are kind of halfway through. I'd like to tell them that if there will be question and answers. Your questions will be answered at the end of the session. Andrew will be there. You can post your questions, and we will answer those questions. And DEITY microphones, will be happy to give you. Someone who's asking a good question. Well, it is entirely up to DEITY. They're going to run, some kind of a lucky dip at the end of the session. They're going to pick one winner, and he is going to win this amazing DEITY VLav.
Yeah, which is the lavalier I was actually just showing just earlier. So yeah, that's a $50 lavalier we're going to give away to someone who asked some really good questions today, and that may have to be multiple people. You never know. If we get really good questions.
Yeah, really good questions. And DEITY is going to pick that up, and we will display the winner's, name on the screen. And so stay tuned, stay till the end of the session. I also would like to share a couple of things about Pixel Village. Andrew, if you can just give me 2 minutes, I'll quickly, share, a little bit about Pixel Village here. So Pixel Village is an online photography education platform. Let me quickly get, okay, where did I go? Yeah, so that's where I am. Okay, so this is an online photography education platform. That's me. I'm sure that's when I had the liberty of going to the salon, often. Now it's due to lockdown, everything is shut, and I can't get a haircut and a beard trim done at all. So we have a set of classes for beginners, for wedding photographers, fashion photographers, architectural photographers. Then we have something on landscape, food, documentary photography, and even studio lighting. We have these sessions available. Besides that, we also have these kind of live webinars happening now. So these live webinars are, this one is happening in Tamil, which is a South Indian language. So if you're someone who wants to learn photography in Tamil, this is fundamentals of, digital photography in Tamil. It's a 5-day, 1.5-hour everyday session for just 1,500 Indian rupees. Then you have on digital retouching. This is now the first one is run by Prasanna Venkatesh, one of our mentors. The second one is run by Neil Bose. This is going to be in Hindi, and this one is going to be this is an interesting one. Instagram for Instagram marketing for photographers. So this one is in Malayalam. It's a South Indian language, Malayalam, and this explains exactly how you can market yourself as a photographer using Instagram techniques. So there are lots of stuff available now on Pixel Village, and you can sign in and go to the courses. Look at what is available. There are a lot of free content too. So there's content on Lightroom and mobile phone photography. There are all lots of free content and also paid content currently available in Pixel Village. And let me take this off the screen. And also we currently have an offer running. So anyone who purchases a class, one session, any session for that matter, including the live webinars. The paid live webinars, they stand a chance to win any one of these. We have, in fact, 7 different categories. 7 people are going to win, one of it. It's again going to be a lucky dip, a live lucky dip. So please enroll yourself before 31st May. And we also have an app. So Pixel Village now also is on Android. So you can go to Android Google Store and look for Pixel Village and download. Everything that is available on the website is also available there as well. Okay, so back to, so thanks for listening, and back to our session now. There are a few more things. Sometimes when I record audio, at some point it start. So I hear the word called clipping. It kind of stop recording, or it kind of drops the audio somehow. Why is that?
Yeah, so clipping is, let's go back to photography terms real fast before we go back to audio terms. I think that's the best way to kind of talk about this. And so I've got a screen share up right now to kind of describe what is clipping. So let's take a look at an audio signal. As the voltage gets higher, right, in decibels, the voltage input from the microphone is also getting higher. So what we've got is really strong audio signal. Same thing in a camera, right? As soon as you start to take a photo of the sky, right? You have the blue sky and you see it in your eye. You're like, that's the color blue. Looks wonderful. But your camera, all of a sudden, is all white. And you're like, why is it all white? Well, because it was too bright for your sensor, right? Your sensor was capturing all the data from your lens. Your lens could process it, but at the sensor point, it said, I can't understand. That's too much brightness. The electrical photons hitting my sensor were too strong for me to understand the data, right? And that's clipping in photography. So I've got a chart here. And as you can see, we've got something in the camera world, and especially in video cameras, especially the big ENG cameras, there's a little switch called the knee. Now in photography, when you guys shoot raw data.
Excuse me. Sorry. Yeah. What is it called? I forgot. I didn't hear.
K.
The knee. Okay. K
E.
double E.
Yes.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Sure.
The knee.
Okay.
And it bends just like a human knee does. And in a professional camera, you have a knee, and you can set it to start to move the video signal in the bright areas down some, right? So in photography terms, you shoot a raw image, and you get all of the raw data. Before you make it a JPEG, you take your raw data into something like Photoshop or Lightroom, and you've got that curve, right? And you can kind of pick the points at the top of the curve, and you can roll them down. So the sky goes from white to blue.
Absolutely.
And you're like, that's the sky I saw. Same thing in audio. So I've got a little image over here on my screen share. And it's got what essentially is the knee, but for audio. So you'll see here, we've got 1-to-1, which means the audio is not being compressed at all. It is not being, it's perfect, and it is over threshold. So it's over the threshold, right? That means at the certain point, as soon as you get over threshold, there's no more data. Essentially, your audio went white. Instead of a blue sky, you got a white sky. Same thing for audio. You went from having the human voice being captured to nothing. It just sometimes on some programs will straight up give you no audio at all.
Okay.
So what happens, a limiter or compression comes in and starts to move your audio and bend it. It says, as you get louder, we're only going to give you half, 2-to-1, what you originally were getting. So here we have, as my mouse kind of jumps around, we have literally half the voltage above this line right here. That's kind of where our pivot point is, the knee. Where we start in Photoshop, you'd point the little dot left and right, and this line moves up and down. And that picks a point in your audio, and everything above it starts to bend. So you have a hard knee, which is as soon as it happens, it goes immediately down. Or you have a soft knee. So as it approaches a little bit, as it approaches the line, it starts to bend earlier. And that looks more natural, especially in audio. So like when I get really, really, really loud, I don't blow out my microphone.
Yeah.
Now I'm running a limiter in my setup right now. So up here on my camera, I've actually got a limiter turned on. So if I do get really loud,
Andrew, can you bring that to the monitor?
Absolutely. So I've actually running a limiter right now that you can see right there, that as soon as I approach that line on my VU meter, the audio starts to roll off. So even if I got really loud on this microphone, I am not to get clipped audio. And I do this for live situations because what really is important is at the end of the day, everyone watching needs to hear me. It's not so much important that I make sure I get perfect raw capture of my audio. And that's okay. Some people out there are like, we need to make sure you don't do anything live. You add all that in post-production. Problem is, if you are running on, something that's not really meant to be a cinema device, like a cell phone, like my laptop right now, it's good to have these little tools like a limiter, that like this, right? We do it live so that we get a better kind of image, right, at the end, because I know a lot of people watching this are photographers and they may not understand the concept of this kind of ideas of post-production versus not post-production in terms of audio. They just think you capture the audio and you're done. And the most likely for a lot of people out there watching, that's exactly what they're going to do. So in some programs like Filmic Pro, little devices like this little guy, you can add all that stuff live and kind of compress your image and get that dynamic range within the little space that you're allotted in your little data stream.
Wonderful. Thanks for always using this photography analogy, because we understand, it's comprehension. It's understand.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Now, there are lots of questions which are coming up. So viewers, please stay there. We're going to be picking up. I don't want to disturb Andrew's flow of, thoughts and his explanation. We will go through the entire session and then we'll come back to you. We'll pick the comments. We'll pull it onto the screen and request Andrew to answer them. So hold on, don't be impatient. We are seeing your questions and we will answer them. And there is no hard cutoff, a hard stop at 1 hour. So don't worry. Just stay there and we will answer your questions. Okay, now to the next question. Now that we addressed the problem, we understood the problems and the possible solutions. We understood a few terminologies too. Now, please show us some solutions for mobile phones. The one which if you can show something, how it works, if you have some in front of you, if you can demonstrate it, it'll be wonderful, because I can see a lot of questions there related to, how can I do this? How can I do that?
Absolutely. And I think what most people don't realize is just how powerful the cell phone truly is, if you think about it. Like, what this can do is it can shoot a 1080p video. It can shoot, some of them out there shoot 4K, and now some of the new ones shoot 8K. It can stream that video to something like a cell tower, to a Wi-Fi device, all live, and then it takes that to a CDN network like Facebook or YouTube, and you can send your story, your creativity to anywhere in the world you want. And in some cases, you have enough power in these devices to edit the video, to add graphics, to add all the little things and little details you need to make your video look professional. And isn't that a wonderful thing that every single person has this in their pocket? Now, just straight out of the box though, me holding a cell phone like this is going to make my video shaky. It's going to make my audio sound bad. It's not going to give a lot of light needed for this little tiny sensor. So there's little additions that you can do. I've found on an international website, I went to AliExpress, very, very simple website. It ships all over the world. And we found a couple of things that you can buy right now for less than 20. And that's going to improve so much of what you would normally do with your cell phone. Because most people are just going to pick it up and just start shooting, which is fine if you are Ridley Scott and you want to make the next Bourne Identity movie and you like shaky cam. But most of us, if you really watch cinema, if you really watch filmmaking, you'll notice one thing that's very common. The camera actually doesn't move a whole lot. For the most part, the camera is very stationary, or it kind of just glides. It doesn't get all shaky. So the most basic thing you can do is just make your camera steady. So what I've got is a couple of things over here on my screen share. And the cheapest thing that I can recommend to anyone out there is just go out and get yourself a basic tripod. This one, as you can see, is $3.30 US. Funny enough, I actually own this very tripod, except for mine is in red because they don't make a yellow. I wanted yellow. But I've got this guy, and this is like the easiest thing you can do. So I've actually got one right next to me. That's not the bendy kind. This one's about $10 US. And all it does is it literally just holds my cell phone on a stand like that. And that's really the most basic thing you can do. Because then if I can just get it on a flat surface or pivot a little bit and use the ball head to kind of level myself off, I can actually get the exact frame that I want. And once you've got a steady shot, your footage is going to look 1,000 times better with these small little sensors. You know, let's go back to photography real fast. If you have a CMOS sensor, right, we know all about the jello effect, especially with early DSLRs. You know, you do a pan and all of a sudden the scene would catch up with you after your pan was done. And like the bottom of the frame would get there faster than the top of the frame. And it kind of went, right? Like we don't like that. So these things have that on steroids. So in order to get rid of that, that's one of my first tips is just stabilize your camera. That way you know exactly how far everything is from the camera. If you want to set up lights, if you want to set up microphones, if you want to set your scene and any kind of props in your scene, you know exactly the position that you're aiming for and the perspective that your camera is going to give you. That's the first thing you do. If you want to do anything serious with your cell phone, treat it like you would treat a camera, and that is use a tripod. The next thing I can totally suggest is really start to think about all the different little things you can do to add it to your camera. So like this one allows you to add a lens. This one gives you a cold shoe mount. This one gives you a grip, gives you a 1/4-20 mount, has a 1/4-20 underneath, another 1/4-20, another 1/4-20. You can start to mount stuff onto this. As you can see, you can do a lot with this camera setup. And then if I've got one right over here, you can do a whole lot with this kind of camera setup. So this one's got a cell phone on top of a cell phone. So I'm guessing one is maybe shooting a wide angle, one is shooting a tighter angle. It's got two different little lights on it. So like what right next to me, I've got my little Aperture M9 light that often goes on top of my cell phone rig. So I'll often put my Aperture M9 right on top of mine. So I get a nice little eye light. See, as soon as you start to add little things like this little light will actually hit you in the eyes and make the eyes just pop. So now that I've got this, I need to worry about audio. And this particular rig I'm showing you guys over here, it's got an on-camera microphone that's more of a traditional DSLR kind of microphone. It's going to have a wider pickup pattern. It's not going to be as tight. So you have to be much closer to your subject matter. And you'll also see it's also on a tripod head. So if I was going to do this setup and I was going to do something like an interview, that maybe I'm getting hired by someone who wants to live stream like a corporate broadcast, like the owner of a company wants to tell the story of their new product that they're launching, I could set up my camera, which is my phone, put it on a tripod, add my little eye light to hit them in the eye and give that nice little sparkle. And then I would use something like the Vlog, which you can win right now if you guys are asking questions in the comment section. And I would plug this in. I would run this cable, which is 5 meters, all the way over to my talent, in this case, the CEO of a business. I would clip it right to their collar so I get really good audio. So even if they are moving left and right, the microphone moves with them. And that's what's really nice about something like a lavalier is it always is going to be the exact same distance from the mouth as it is when you place it. It's never going to adjust. It's never going to become different. Audio, one of the biggest issues people have with audio is the fact that they set their audio up and they never adjust halfway through the shoot. But let me tell you something. Like right now, I have actually been doing all of this kind of stuff throughout this whole kind of interview here on Pixel Village. Why? Because I'm a squirmy person. I'm also in a fun chair. So if I've got to do this kind of interview all over again, I probably would have locked my chair in. So if you're going to do an interview with someone with a mobile phone, lock their chair in so they don't move if you have a microphone positioned on them. But it doesn't really matter if you've got a lavalier because that is always going to move with them. So this is the kind of stuff that I think a lot of people should start thinking about is how to kind of turn their cell phone. Doesn't matter what cell phone you have, how to turn your cell phone into a video phone, a video camera. some kind of cinema tool. And adding these kinds of additions, like little bitty lights, mounting brackets, a way of just keeping your phone steady, is going to be some of the biggest changes you can make to your cell phone shooting. I think so often people sit there and just hold it and want to do the TikTok like this, when really most TikTokers who are famous keep their phone and they just tilt it on something like, say, a Coke can. They just tilt it right there. That's it. You're never going to find a lot of good high-end people who are doing stuff that is just shaking the camera the whole time. As important it is to see a subject, proper exposure, all that stuff, it's also important to worry about motion blur. So if you're a photographer, motion blur is something that you can use to tell the story to help emphasize where exactly the subject is. Like if you've got cars driving really fast, you do a longer shutter speed, and then you focus on the building that's not moving at all. Your eyes really drawn to the building, and the cars kind of motion blur out. Same thing, if you have the whole frame motion blur though, no one can tell what you are trying to actually film.
Great. Hey, thank you. So before we go into the questions, I have one more question, which is about, so now we know basically how to, how important audio is. What are the limitations of in-phone microphone? And what are the solutions? We also explained a couple of very important terminologies that one must know when you handle audio for the first time. My next question is, now that we have taken the audio, all right, either using a wired or a wireless lavalier, I have done all the other things which is needed for let's say stabilizing video and all that, and thank you for those additional inputs, which is actually equally important, because many people forget that you need to make sure that your subject should be stationary, or the camera should be stationary, or the distance should be kind of managed. There are so many things, so thanks for that additional input to this. So what I wish to know is how important is, like okay, let's go back to photography. We do a lot of video image post-processing. We process the data. And is there different formats in which, so it's in two parts, okay? So we record them in raw data, record them as compressed JPEGs. There are two available. Both has its own advantages and disadvantages. Now, what format do we record audio? Which is the most recommended format in which audio should be recorded? Does mobile phones allow it at all? And the next part is, do you post-process an audio? If yes, so there is a third part to it, I'm sorry. Do you suggest any softwares to do that? Thank you.
Sure. So let's start with the first one, which is acquisition, right? We have to worry about acquisition and the file type. So what I've got here on my screen share is a program that's the most popular amongst mobile phone filmmakers, and that is Filmic Pro. So over here on the screen share, I've actually got the audio menu that we suggest that people use in Filmic Pro, and that is, we actually got a USB microphone plugged in. In this case, it's the HDTX being used via USB into the phone. And you'll see on the top screen there, it says DEITY HDTX. What that's going to do is actually going to select your microphone. So in Filmic Pro, you have internal, external, and you have USB source. So we've actually selected the highest quality we could, which was a USB source that allows us to bring XLR microphones, professional microphones, into a mobile phone. Now, this is not a cheap solution, but this is the best solution. And so we're going to start there. If you don't have this, that top row should say external microphone. That means you're using a TRRS microphone, which really is almost any kind of microphone you want to go into a mobile phone. The next one there is AAC, which is uncompressed audio. That's going to be your highest bit rate. It's also going to be the least amount of compression of any kind given to the file type for the audio part of the file. AAC is wonderful. And then we've actually maxed out the bit rate here, which is 48 kilohertz. So what that's going to, the sample rate. So what it's going to have is the most amount of samples. So as the audio kind of talks, you're going to have a waveform, right? It's going to look kind of like up and down circles. You're going to have upper circle and then a lower circle and then an upper circle and a lower circle. What this means is for every single 48 kilohertz in this cycle, it's actually going to do a dot. Now, the more dots it makes, the more accurate to those circles and waveforms the audio is, right? So that's a wonderful thing. So we're going to max that all out. Now, when we export our audio, if it's separate from the video, we're going to try to match those settings for as long as possible, right? Just like in photography, you try to keep the raw file as long as you can, and then you have a Photoshop file for as long as you can until you absolutely at the very end need to make a JPEG. And only then do you make the JPEG. So you try to stay in an uncompressed kind of project file, as it were, for as long as possible. And the same thing with audio. We try to stay as uncompressed for as long as possible till we absolutely need to export the final video. And if that requires us to do something in like a lower sample rate, a lower bit rate, that's perfectly fine then. But you don't want to mess up anything until the very end, because as soon as you go down in quality, you can't get it back. It's like resolution. You know, you have 1080p, and that's a wonderful format. But if I export to standard definition, and then someone says, oh, we need that back in 1080p because we got to use that same shot in another video, you can't just put it in your timeline and stretch it, and it will look just like it did when you started. No, it looks like stretched standard definition. Same thing with audio. Once you compress, you can't get it back.
Great, thanks. Thanks. So I'm going to pick a few. So it's the right time to start picking questions. Shall we
Wonderful.
do that, Andrew?
Absolutely. Let's give away some free gear.
Yeah, absolutely. So what exactly lavalier? So best. Oh, I because there are so many questions coming in. I had shortlisted some that kind of moved up, so I need to kind of look for it. Having a small studio, currently using my smartphone for recording.
Yeah, through some of in our private chat, if you want to look over there.
Yep. Okay. So being it is how much important. The thing is, I will not be able to bring that onto the screen, you know. So that's one limitation that I have. So let me quickly pick one. Just hold on, please. There were a few Pixel Village sound, wingy. There's someone called. A basic question. Royston asking, do you think we can use earphones mic for recording?
Yes. So if you have absolutely nothing else, right, you're just getting started, I think earphones is a perfect place for you to get started because you probably already have them. Before you start spending money, you know, before you start doing anything, do what you can with what you can, you know, already have around you, what you can get your hands on. I think the hardest part about being a filmmaker, a lot of people say is, you know, I've got to go buy a camera. I got to go buy a red. I got to go buy a light. I got to go buy a light stand, a tripod, all that stuff. Like the stuff I showed was all under $20 US because I wanted you guys to see that it's available to you now without not having to spend a lot of that money, because getting started is the hardest part about anything. I mean, when you started Pixel Vision, you probably started with whatever you had available to you. Am I right?
That's right. That's right.
And at the end of the day, you now have this amazing YouTube channel with great educational value. But when you started, you didn't buy yourself a red. You didn't buy yourself, a Sackler tripod.
We still don't have it. We have a Sackler. We have a Sackler though.
Yeah, I mean, but here's what happened was you started with what you had. You built it. You knew exactly how far that could take you. And as soon as you hit the limit of your gear, then and only then do I recommend people buy gear. I'm in the business of selling equipment. I want you to buy DEITY products. But one thing I do not want you at home watching this to do is go into debt.
Yes, very
It
important.
is so hard to be creative when you worry about money.
Absolutely.
It is a very bad, evil thing in this world. And I think so many people try to push and market equipment and try to tell you how this is going to solve your problems. I don't know what your problems are. I know what problems I had when I was a filmmaker, when I was a location sound mixer, and we make products that solve problems that I had in my past, that I always wanted to fix my solutions. So for you, if you have earbuds, you've got your earbuds, you got the little microphone dangling. If you have that, start there. Now, you are immediately probably going to realize that there's some problems with that. You may want to take some wire snips and cut the headphones off. So all you have is just the microphone, a wire, and a plug. If that's all you have, get started there. You may discover that earphone is getting in the way, that you can't hide it underneath clothing as easily. Of course not. It's a big giant earphone. It's a lot of extra wire. So you may have to get some scissors out and cut some wire. Not a problem. You may have to discover that, you have to learn how to solder a wire and build your own connector. That's what I did. I mean, that's my soldering station right there. We make little toys and little gadgets for our show all the time over there because we want them. You may discover you love this kind of skill and DIY-ness. And for a while, that may carry you very far in life. And as soon as you hit that limitation of that earphone not working well, then you go, cool, what's the next step for me? But I do not want anyone going out there and saying, cool, I'm going to be a mobile filmmaker. Let's go buy a $400 microphone. Let's go buy a very expensive Manfrotto tripod. Let's go buy a very expensive cell phone holder. The premium cell phone holder with all the plastic gadgets and all the lights and everything. I don't want you to start there. Maybe that's where you end up, in a year from now. But tomorrow, I want everyone watching this to pick up their cell phone, go film something. And I think one of the best things is because everyone is at home right now, locked up. I was joking around earlier as you were doing your intermission. I was kind of like showing off my Coke can as if, I'm doing a product commercial for it. Everyone has something in their house like that. Take a white piece of paper from your printer, set it up, put it in front of your window, nice soft light coming in your window, set up a little product and shoot a commercial with nothing but your cell phone tomorrow. Do that. Start somewhere with something that's only 30 seconds long. If you can do that next week, shoot a 1-minute commercial. Shoot a story where you tell someone's life in 1 minute, only using your cell phone. And in a month from now, after you do a couple of these kinds of exercises, not only will you know everything that you can do with the camera that's built into your phone, you will know everything there is what you can do with what little audio you may already have laying around your house, like earbuds. And you're going to say, cool, this either works for me, or you're going to say, I can't do it anymore with this. Now is the time to sit there and buy something.
Hi, Royston. I think you got more than what you asked for. I think you also got inspired. I got inspired. I mean, it was very important, you actually went beyond that question and kind of tried to explain to them, even inspire them. Thank you, Andrew.
Well, Royston is going to get himself a lavalier. He is not going to worry at all about those earbuds. So, Royston, add your. I'm going to to you. We've got ways of shipping stuff in. Go add Royston to your About profile on your YouTube channel. In your About profile, add your email so I can send you an email, Royston. Thank you so much for that question.
Wonderful. Royston, are you listening to it? You just won without a lucky dip. Courtesy DEITY microphone, one amazing lav microphone, which is going to solve you. So no longer using your earphone and cutting them off. You got one delivered to your home. Hey,
absolutely.
I envy you, Royston. Yeah. All right. So we have this question. How much important is set up microphone position for the best optimum quality? Yeah.
100% important. 100% important. Let me point this out. And this is the best way I can demonstrate it. So there's a law of physics. So if everyone here is going to university and learning about physics, it's very simple that you ask yourself something about light. So we're going to go back to photography. That is inverse square law. Is this something that you've taught about on Pixel Vision?
Yeah, absolutely. Pixel Village. Sorry.
Yeah, Pixel Village. I'm so
No problem.
sleepy.
No problem.
It's
Oh
nearly
yeah.
1 a.m. here in Los Angeles, and I'm
Oh
so
yeah.
hyped up
No,
on
no.
sugar
I mean,
right now.
thank you for staying, and it's completely okay. It's
No,
completely okay. No problem.
So
Yeah.
we're going to inverse square law. What that says is, let's say I have a point of light, and I have something 1 meter away. That's going to result in X amount of light being received. Okay. And if I go 2 meters away from that point of light, even though I doubled my distance, I've actually cut the amount I'm receiving that is going to be X over 1/4. So it's technically 1/4 of what X was. So as I double the distance, I now get 1/4 of the amount of light. The same thing is for the sound in our lives. So if my voice creates X amount of voice at 1 meter, if you go 2 meters away, I am now 1/4 X loud. Okay, so I'm actually 1/4 quieter than I was here. Same thing with this microphone. So as I'm talking to you right now, I am roughly around, 5 centimeters off this microphone. So let's go to 10 centimeters. This is like 10 centimeters, really a lot quieter. Now let's go to 20 centimeters away. You'll notice my voice dropped dramatically, unless YouTube's algorithm has done a lot of heavy compression. But no, so that's going to happen incrementally. So if I don't position this microphone properly, I do not get the amount of voice I need to send to post-production to edit. So for me right now, because I'm in a room full of heavy concrete walls, I don't want to get too loud. I have to put the microphone very close to my voice. If I were to go much further away, I could add some gain right there on the microphone or down at my little converter box from audio to USB. I could add some gain and make up that difference of inverse square law because of poor positioning. I can only do that at a certain point, though. To a certain point, that works just fine, right? So if I'm like this, I'm about 18 inches, about 20 centimeters away from the microphone. That's perfectly fine. I can put that just above my head right here, out of frame. It would look good on camera and sound perfect. I add 20 decibels of gain, and we're back up at negative 12 dB on our VU meter. If I go beyond that, if I go to 3 feet, 1 meter away, that may not be close enough to where I get my voice. At a certain point, it's not going to pick up my voice. It's going to start to pick up the echo of this room. And once you get echo, unless you want to spend a lot of money in post-production, there's no way to get rid of echo.
All right. One question is from Arun Shashi. He's asking, now this is a little outside our syllabus today, but he's asking about the type of microphones. Which microphone to choose, a Cartroid or an omnidirectional or a bidirectional for shooting an educational content interview. Like I told you earlier, there are lots of people in India use their mobile phones to record private tuitions, mathematics, physics, and all sorts of things. Absolutely. For high school education. They don't want to learn photography and videography again, so they just stick up their mobile phones and start recording. So this he's asking what type of microphone should one use while producing an educational content or an interview?
So if I'm going to shoot an interview, if I'm going to shoot educational content of a professor or lecturer talking to camera, so in the United States, this is called a talking head, where all you have in frame is someone's head, a little bit of their body, and something in the background, right? It doesn't really matter what's back here. You care about this. It's a talking head. So if we were going to shoot a talking head shoot, I would actually use an omnidirectional lavalier. The reason for this is I can place this lavalier, right? I just place this right there on my chest. I clip it right here. And what's great about an omnidirectional lavalier is if I turn my head, it still captures everything around me. And it only captures if you big. That's wonderful because the distance between here is almost roughly the same distance as I turn my head. So if I'm turning my head, if I'm doing something like this, doing something like that, the distance from here to here remains roughly the same, which means my volume does not fluctuate. It stays exactly the same, no matter if I'm turning my head or not. So if I'm instructing someone, if I've got multiple mobile phones doing a whole lecture for multiple people, and I've got individual people being told, you know, I've seen those crazy cell phone setups where they have multiple cell phones set up, doing kind of the sales pitches and the kind of like home shopping network where they're showing off a product to multiple streams on multiple TikTok accounts and multiple Instagrams and all that kind of stuff. If you have a setup like that, that's crazy, out of the world, doesn't matter, because as you turn your head, this audio is always going to be perfect.
Okay, so Arun, hope you got your answer. Next, this is not a question, it's a comment from Exploring Light. Says, we create our own videos, but we have always struggled with voice quality. This sounds a good option. So thank you, Exploring Light. In fact, Exploring Light is run by one of our mentors, Jesse Oberoi, and he's an amazing landscape photographer, travels all across the world, doing photo tours and all that, and he's got a YouTube channel. So he always talks about, you know, the audio struggle that he goes through. Yeah. Okay, now let me look for another question. And all right, so this is very interesting. Arun Verma asking, any solution for extreme wind situations? Please explain. Hybrid mic, I suppose. Hybrid mic. It sounds, you know, high tech to me. Wired and wireless. How do we, basically the question is, how do we handle wind situations?
Yeah, let me grab something right here. I'll be right back.
Oh,
that is
okay. Sure. All right, while Andrew gets, he got it already.
that guy.
Hey.
So this is a gigantic dead cat. And what goes inside of here is, if I were to take this, right? So I take something like this, and I could put my microphone inside of this. And if I had a very windy situation, I would have this on my boom pole, this, and this would protect all of, you know, my microphones from the wind. This fur breaks up all of the wind. And what you can do, doesn't matter what kind of microphone you have, you can take a lavalier, put a little fur ball over it. I could take this guy and put fur over it. That's going to break up the wind. What you're trying to do is create a pocket of air around your microphone that's not moving. All the air around your microphone can be just rushing by, but inside this little fur ball, there's no wind moving. And if there's no wind moving, the capsule itself doesn't hear wind. It only gets the vibrations in the air. And those vibrations are our voice.
All right, so I think we can take 2 more questions, and then we'll go into the lucky dip. And you know, it's pretty late for you.
It's okay.
What's how reduce echo while dubbing? There are lots of questions with regard to dubbing and studio recording, which we will not get into at this point, because then the questions can really it's actually out of the gamut of discussion that we've set aside, the kind of syllabus that we've decided for today's discussion. Okay, so is there anything? Can I yeah, so everything about microphone positions. Then what does the lavalier do? Specifications of a good quality microphone. That's a good one. Okay. Yeah. What are the specifications of a good quality microphone?
So there's actually just a couple that you need to worry about. So when you look at a microphone chart, you can see just a bunch of numbers in a grid. And if you don't know anything about microphones, you will look at that and go, I don't know what that is, which is perfectly fine, because you don't need to know what all of that is. You just need to know 2 specs. And this is the ones that I'm telling you guys who are mobile phone militaries out there. These are the 2 specs you need to worry about. that is frequency response, okay, and something called signal to noise ratio, okay? So you want a really big signal to noise ratio. That's going to make the microphone very quiet. And you want frequency response. Now, it's important. Some frequency responses you're going to see from 20 to 20,000 kilohertz. Odds are they're lying. Perfectly honest, odds are they're probably lying. Most mobile phone microphones are 50 to 16,000. Why? Well, because our phones can't actually capture 20,000 or 20 to 20,000. The preamplifiers built into your mobile phone are just not capable of it. So you may end up buying something that actually can't actually deliver, and you wouldn't even be able to tell the difference because your phone won't be able to tell the difference either. So you'll never record those frequencies. So really, what I tell people is look for anything that is 50 to 16,000. That's going to cover the range of which a cell phone can actually capture. And you're really going to want that large signal to noise ratio. So you have a very quiet microphone. By quiet, I mean the little hiss that may be in the background of that microphone. If it doesn't have a good signal to noise ratio, you are going to end up with a lot of, no matter how loud you talk, that's always going to be there because it's in the circuitry of the microphone. So with those two specs alone, you can walk away knowing that you bought something that is good and quality. Some microphones may say they're only from 50,000 to 10,000. That's going to be a very bad microphone because it's not going to capture the brightness in people's voices. So in the top end, where it's like 10,000 to 16,000 kilohertz, that's actually where the brightness in our voice is. For people watching at home that aren't too sure what those terms mean, think of it as bass and treble. So when you're doing a car radio and you're trying to make the music sound that's your bass, that's your low frequencies, that's your 50,000, or that's your 50 hertz. And if you want that music to really punch, like your disco or your techno music that has a lot of synthesizers and keyboards, that's going to be all your high frequencies. That's going to be where you actually can tell which note was actually played. And if your microphone can't capture that, it's just going to sound muddy.
Great. Thank you. So hope the person who asked that question is there with us and he got the answer. Okay. Yeah. The next question is from Architect Mitra. He's asking, how can I use my mobile phone with a lav mic for voice-over recording? Any good app suggestion for Android? And what is the best video recording app for Android? That's 3 questions, my friend. But okay, Andrew, please take that. Thank you.
Okay, so let's leave the question up so I can just read it right off. So how can I use my mobile phone with a lav for recording voiceovers? Very simple, okay? So what I would suggest is let's take our little $10 stand that we bought. This is the same one that you are doing if people sign up for a course, right? You're giving away a little Manfrotto tripod tabletop stand, right?
Yep. Sorry.
So I would take my little tabletop stand that you can buy for like $10, not a big deal. I would take it. I would take my lavalier and I would clip it to the stand, right? Simple kind of setup. I would just lay my phone on the table.
Instead of clipping here.
Instead of clipping it here. And the reason for that is what I want is not to interact with the microphone because a lavalier doesn't have a shock mount. It doesn't have the ability to kind of sit there and absorb any kind of rustle. The last thing I want to do during exactly like this guy. So instead of setting it all up in a way that I could potentially add clothing rustle to my voiceover, I want to make it as pure as possible. And it's just kind of hovering in space. It's not right on a surface. And I'm just going to get a little bit close to it like this, as close as I can, and just talk right across the top of it, not down into it. I'm actually going to talk across the top of it. So if I had my piece of paper up that I'm reading, I'd have it right here, and I would look at that piece of paper, and I would talk across the microphone, so I'm not spitting and blowing wind into the microphone. Right? Yeah, so that's how I would do it. And I would use something as simple as a mobile app in Android that allows me to adjust the gain and see the VU meter. Okay. So whatever app that is for you based on the spec of your phone, certain phones can run certain apps don't run on all phones. I would actually look for something called SoundForge. It seems to be a pretty universal program in terms of Android. And it should let you also see your view meters as you're talking, as well as kind of see your kind of waveforms that you're producing as you're hitting record. I would use something like that. I would lay it down on my tabletop. I would have my hands off the table, my whole body off the table, and I would talk across the microphone and just hit record, set it, and you're good to go.
So
now,
you said SoundForge. Did you say that?
SoundForge. Yeah.
Is it one word?
Maybe. Well, let me see if I can find it in the Play Store. Play Store. Play Store. There's my Play Store. And we're going to look up SoundForge.
Too many.
Record Forge. That's what I'm looking for. That's what it's called. So this app right here is the one I would suggest. And if I pull up the photo, you can totally see that's really cool looking program. You can set your levels. You can see your view meter. You can hit record. You can have multiple files going at once, and you can see your audio. And if you need to do some minor edits, you can do it all in this program. And that's kind of really nice. And you can also have like tons of stuff. So this is in your mobile phone, not on a tablet. There's your audio levels. Looks really nice. Your gain settings when you're hitting record. And a ton of different settings in the back end to make sure you're actually getting that uncompressed audio like we were talking about earlier. You want to make sure, so like this one can do wave 22 kilohertz, 16-bit mono. I would bump that setting up as high as possible as what your phone can do. Some phones won't let you go higher than this. Other phones will let you go really, really high if you've got one of those nicer, newer flagship phones. And lastly, his question is, what is the best video recording app for Android? Well, this is actually a pretty easy one. It hasn't been updated in a while, but I was playing with it, and it's called Cinema FV5. And this is the one that I really like. There's a light version and a paid version. The paid version right now is on discount. I've already got it installed, as you can see, on my device. This is the one I actually use. So I'm recommending something that I use. I'm actually currently logged into my account. And the other program is Filmic Pro Professional. This is a $15 US app, and this is the best, highest quality app out there on the market in terms of video cameras for mobile on Android.
Wonderful. We'll take one last question, and it is, does audio quality drop when we use a very long wire for lavalier microphone connected to the mobile phone?
No.
It doesn't, because okay.
Honestly, you're not going to see a drop in audio quality on any kind of microphone, lavalier, XLR, TRS, all that kind of stuff, until you get really, really far. And even then, you may not notice the difference at all. Where it really comes into play is the quality of the wire, not necessarily the distance. So impedance is very important. So if you get a cable that has a very high impedance, you may actually end up with less bass in your microphone. At the same time, what people like to do is they'll keep their wires all coiled up like this, plug it into their mobile. When you coil a wire, you are adding impedance to that microphone. You are creating a natural low cut filter.
Okay.
So sometimes the best thing you can do is have messy cables.
Okay. All right. Thanks. So, so let me just remove that question from the screen. And now it's time for the lucky dip. And hope the guys from, DEITY is now working. Guys, I know that you guys are watching. Please send the winner's name onto the screen, please. And I will. This is besides the one which Andrew just gave away to Royston. Royston, please add your mobile phone, and from that mobile. Royston, please add your email ID to in the chat so that we can reach you. And okay, so I have the winner here. So let me just copy. Where is it? Oh, let me. I can't see. Yes. Just hold on, guys, please. I'm just pulling out the. Okay, there is. I know the lucky winner. There it is. Let me just paste it onto the screen. Okay, here we have. That's the lucky winner, according to.
Yay!
According to the DEITY people. They just send it because they have a device using which, I was told that they're going to copy paste the link onto one software, and the software picks a lucky winner. So
Yep.
he asked that tough question about Cartroid, and I think that's the one. Anyway, the lucky dip doesn't mean that you had to definitely ask the question. But this is what DEITY people have picked, and yeah. So please include your email ID. Oh no, they says at DEITY Microphones on Facebook. Okay, that's what. Yep. Royston, please. I stand corrected. You have to send a direct message on DEITY Microphones at DEITY Microphones on Facebook with your details. That's the way you will. They will know that it is you, and then you will be able to. They'll be able to get back to you. They'll be able to get back to you, and then you can give them locations, things like that, and all that, and they will deliver the microphone. They'll have the fabulous. Let me show what you're getting. This is what you're getting. Okay, so 1 second. So this is what you're getting. Wonderful. Thank you very much. And let me take this off the screen. And there are questions still pouring in. Still pouring, but I extremely microphone. Do you have time to take one more question?
Yeah, let's take two more. Just have fun.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, right. This microphone. Some of them are basics. We've already answered them.
That's okay.
Okay, this is something which you touched upon during the while you were explaining about the distance. But again, for the benefit of mere tipness, if I want to shoot a sports video for sharing, how can I improve its video and audio quality as sportsmen are moving continuously? Now he thinks that you're a video expert too, which you are. In fact, you started with videos. So yes.
Yeah, so if you're talking about sportsmen, you're probably talking about cricket players or football players, right? So you've got subject that's runs all the time. So one thing I would worry about would be trying to kind of get in a position somewhere that I know I can actually see the whole field. So often we walk up to some place and we just start putting our camera up and we're done. We don't actually location scout. So the first thing I would do is find what is the most optimal position on the field, just outside the boundaries of the game to get the best location for my camera. I would worry about camera first because the audio in sports so often comes with wireless microphones and announcers and lots of hidden microphones across the whole field. You're not going to be able to reproduce that. So let's first get that out of your head. So any results you're going to get are going to be as best as possible with a mobile device, not broadcast quality kind of, BBC football matches. So what you need to think about is probably look at something called a parabolic dish microphone. And if you want to build one yourself, this is actually a very easy device for you to build yourself. I will look up DIY parabolic microphone. And I'm actually going to just type this literally in my browser. I'll share this with you right now as I do this. DIY parabolic microphone. This is so popular to do. And you can see, here's a guy right here. I'll open this in a new tab. And we'll make this nice and big. And you can see he has got a camera. He's probably filming sports because he looks like he's in a park. He's got, looks like a trash can lid with a rod going across it. He's got a little bitty microphone positioned right there in the center. So what that does is it focuses all the energy that is being collected by the trash can lid into a small space. It is convexed. So you'll notice, or I'm sorry, it's concaved. So you'll actually notice it's curved on the inside. And it's focusing all of that energy right to that little spot right in the center. So if I were to look at another one, you can probably see this in a better position. Here's a great, here's the professional one. That's exactly what we're trying to build. So this is actually, when I started, this is something I actually used in real life. So the microphone sits right here. It's got a rod going across it. And this dish at this point is equally positioned from everything inside of the dish. So all energy of that dish is focused into that microphone. What that does is it allows you to hear, and I'm talking like, this is not just magic. This really does work. You can hear 100 meters away from you.
Wow.
It's amazing. Now, there is a caveat to that. It hears 100 meters away from you. It's not going to sound amazing. It's going to sound mid-tone, which means human voice will sound great. The kicking of a ball is going to sound great. The hitting of a ball with a cricket bat will sound amazing. But as the players talk to each other, it's not going to sound like a microphone put on their chest. It's not going to sound that good. It's going to sound like a whisper. It's kind of like a whisper. It's also going to hear what's behind them as well as what's in front of them. So if you have a player and the audience, the crowd is cheering behind that player, you're going to also hear the crowd. It's a very focused laser microphone. And you can build one of these yourselves. And the actual microphone element that goes right here in the center is an omnidirectional lavalier, which you can buy and build yourself. It's very simple. And this is a great little tool to buy. And this is not too far off from the one I used to wear when I was actually shooting football here in America.
Okay, sure, great. So this Kavan Shah he's been a little restless. He said, "Ask my question, ask my question." His question is, is DEITY microphones good for travel photography and for musicians?
Yeah. Sorry, I mean, I don't know what instrument you play. Some instruments are easier to mic than others. And, the microphone I'm using right now is actually meant for travel photography. This microphone is actually meant to go on your mirrorless camera or your DSLR or even your point and shoot, kind of like the Sony A6500.
Sorry, in fact, that was, so we can combine two questions into one. That was another question and asked by another gentleman in the comments box, is that what are the type of, what are the mic that we are using, you and me?
Oh,
so
yeah. So this thing is called the DEITY D3 Pro. So I'm pulling up a photo. I don't think we actually brought one because I forgot to do that. Here it is. Boom. New tab, full screen. There it is. So this is the microphone that I'm actually currently talking to you with right now, even though I'm talking to you and I've actually got mine on a boom arm, kind of like you may have at a radio station where a DJ or some kind of Twitch video game player may use, so I can use my keyboard. I don't have my microphone in my face. It's slightly off. This microphone is just a microphone at the end of the day, and that's why we made it this way. So it actually uses a TRRS connection, which means you can actually plug this into your mobile. If I were to unplug this and plug it right into my mobile, it would immediately work, no problem. I've actually currently got it going into a little junction box that I use to put audio into my computer, but it'll also go right into your DSLR. And yet it's just a microphone at the end of the day. For us, you plug it in and it works. It's a super cardioid microphone. So what that means is it picks up a lot to the front, very little behind the microphone. It's a very directional microphone. So if you have an instrument that's not too big and you want to point this microphone right at the instrument, if you're a musician, that may work. If your instrument is really big, like a stand-up cello bass, well, you're not going to hear the plucking of your fingers at the top side. You may only hear the plucking at the bottom. And if you want that plucky kind of bass sound, you would require two separate microphones. So it really depends on what kind of instrument you're playing. If you're playing a guitar, yeah, this microphone is going to work perfect for you. Run it all the way back to your camera, put it in the scene, and you may put it on a little small tripod before you. Or because this microphone actually has a 3/8 mount right up in here, the actual mount of this microphone Well, it is cold shoe to go on your camera. There's actually a 3/8 hole underneath it, so you can screw it onto a microphone stand.
Great. That was way more content than we, Thank you very much, Andrew, for your time and your patience and answering all those questions. And I'm very delighted to have you here. To the audience, the promises to that Andrew will be back here very soon. We will announce the dates and we will discuss about audio for DSLRs. Okay, today we discussed about mobile phones, mobile devices. DSLRs and mirrorless are going to be the topic of discussion in the next series, which is going to come up in. We will announce the dates and we'll let you all know. And of course, the third session. We decided a 3-part session. The third one is going to be pro audio. And that's going to be a loaded one with lots of real high-end audio information, how to work with. If you're into short film production and if you want to corporate filmmaking and things like that, you may not want to miss that. And if you're a wedding photographer, if you're someone who's a YouTuber, you may not want to miss the next session, which is on making on DSLR. Well, before we go, I'd like to thank my son for monitoring today's. You want to come in? Come in. Yeah. So he is here. He's Vishnu. Yeah. You need to. Your face is covered by this microphone, so there he is. He's not exactly happy because he is missing his playtime in a fortnight. But yeah, thank you, Vishnu. Great. And thank you, Andrew, once again. And thank you, DEITY, for this opportunity. And thank you, everyone. Thanks for all the viewers who stayed all this while. Yes, there was a question whether DEITY is available in India. Yes, DEITY is available. Let me quickly put that on the screen. Yes, DEITY is available in India. We will post a link of the seller as a top comment in the live, which is going to remain in our channel, so you can contact them in case if you are wanting to buy something from India. So thank you once again, Andrew. You want to say something, and maybe we'll close with your words.
Yeah, I just want to say, when I kind of issued that challenge to everyone tomorrow to go shoot a 30-second commercial, I meant it. Go do it. I truly do believe every single person here watching is watching because they are passionate about this. They want to get better. They want to do something creative and give what they think is their story, ideas, and how they feel out to the world and share. And I truly do believe that tomorrow, that's what everyone watching this right now should do. You should practice every single day with whatever you can put your hands on. And if that is a mobile phone, do it.
Truly inspirational. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Stay safe. Bye for now.